Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Note to Self. I'm your host, Zoe, and today's episode is one that's been on my heart for a while. It's been on my heart for a while because it's something that I've presently been navigating in my own life this year so far, and it's something I know so many of us walk through but rarely talk about openly. Those seasons when it feels like parts of you are dying. So maybe you felt this before, where who you used to be doesn't feel like it fits anymore, where the old ways of showing up, the old identities, the old patterns, they're falling away. And I want to acknowledge and validate that it can feel terrifying. It can feel like loss, grief, and sometimes like you don't even recognize yourself anymore. If you're in this space right now, I want you to know that you're not alone, and this season is incredibly sacred. So let's normalize this type of experience because we are human beings that will continue to grow and evolve as we move through life. And I know that those of you listening to this podcast are dedicated to self-improvement, to becoming a better version of yourself each day. So when it feels like parts of you are dying, it's not because you're broken or breaking, it's because you're evolving. Nature shows us this all the time. Think about a snake shedding its skin. That skin once protected it, but eventually it becomes too tight, too small, and it needs to fall away. Or the caterpillar who literally dissolves into mush before becoming a butterfly. Those processes look like endings, but they're actually the beginning of something more expansive. So if you've been feeling like the old version of you is slipping away, that's not something to resist, it's actually something to honor. But let's be real for a moment because it doesn't feel graceful when it's happening. You do not feel like the butterfly when you are dissolving into mush. It can feel like heartbreak, confusion, or even like you're losing control of your life. And this is because we attach to our identities. We hold tightly to who we think we are, the roles we've played, and the ways people know us. And when those start to shift, the ego panics. There's also grief, because even if the old self wasn't fully aligned, it was familiar. And letting go of what's familiar, even when it's not serving us, is hard. So if you've been grieving lately, or angry, or scared, that's okay. You're human. Those emotions are actually part of the initiation. I want to share an example of an identity shift that really rocked my world. It was when I decided to leave Italy after living there for 3 years and move back to Toronto. When I initially made the move to Italy, I moved from Toronto, and I felt and thought in my heart that I would always live in that place. Rome was home. It was my dream come true. And it was something that I valued so much in my life because it was this ray of light after a season of a lot of darkness. And so I really clung to that identity, and I didn't realize how much of an identity it was until I moved back to Toronto. Fully a conscious choice. I did it to become a certified professional life coach, another dream of mine. But in making that shift, I realized that there were so many different attachments that I had to address in order to feel free. In order to feel free to show up online, I had a lot of judgment or attachment that people perhaps didn't feel like they wanted to watch my journey unfold, or because I wasn't in Rome anymore, it wasn't cool. There was a bunch of different stories that my ego really held on to that I had to do deep work in releasing. So naturally, with different transitions in life, like moving to different places, that familiarity that we once had is something that the ego naturally constructed an identity around. And in recent times this year, there's been a lot of transition in my life because earlier this year, I lost my older brother. And I didn't realize that grief and losing someone so close to you also creates a massive identity shift because I was once the middle sibling. I had an older brother. Of course, I still feel and know that my brother is here, but just in a different reality than mine. So I still think of him as my older brother, but here on earth in the 3D reality, I no longer have that. And growing up in a household, a family of 5, I really created, the ego naturally created a whole identity around family and what that looks like. And losing my brother has felt like the rug being pulled out underneath me. So these are 2 examples that I share because these identity shifts, they can come out of nowhere. It can come a bit more predictable in seasons when we're packing up all our things and we're moving somewhere, or we're deciding to enter into a new job or a different type of career or schooling. Or it can come in unpredictable nature, like a loss of someone, a breakup of some kind, perhaps a job loss, or your job dissolves. And we're forced to move into a state of change when we did not expect it. So again, it's an initiation, right? This is a powerful word to hold on to when it feels like everything around you is crumbling and very uncomfortable. And here's the reframe. Every time something inside of you dies, you're being cleared for rebirth. The part of you that's falling away has done its job. It brought you here. And now you're ready to step into a version of yourself that's more aligned, more true, and more free. Think about past seasons in your life when you let go of something, a job, a relationship, a belief, and in the moment, it felt devastating. But later you could see it was the turning point. The same is happening now. The death of the old you is the initiation into the truest you. And just to reflect back on my previous example of leaving Rome and untangling all of that identity work that my ego had attached to living in Italy and stepping into becoming a certified professional life coach. I went through a year of schooling for that, of a certification program. And I became a different person through that. I radically shed the previous identity and I became so much more of a truer version of myself. And I found such resonance in my career, the career that I still have to this day, supporting people making their dreams come true, supporting people through life transitions and inspiring them to reach for their next levels. Like, I love what I do every single day. And I loved what I did before becoming a professional life coach. I was doing YouTube full time and getting a lot of sponsorships, but there was a lot of hustle in that. I also still felt like I was an entrepreneur at heart, and it kind of felt like YouTube was my boss. So even though I had no idea and everything felt uncomfortable, I share that because I found the truest resonance of my work, my service here on earth, of showing up and being a coach, a support, a guide for people. And this has been one of the greatest journeys of my life. And it wouldn't have been possible if I clung so hard to Italy that I wouldn't have been willing to truly ask myself, what would be the next empowered move? So let's talk about that discomfort and some practical tools to move through it. So these seasons come with a lot of uncomfortable emotions, and at points in time, it can feel like you're drowning. So some ways that you can support yourself is 1, journaling, and some powerful prompts. I'll just list off 3 for you right now. What parts of me feel like they're ending? What am I afraid will happen if I fully let this go? Who am I becoming through this? So these are all very powerful, and you can even expand, evolve these prompts. But basically what you really want to get to the root of inside of yourself is being able to pull out what needs to go. Why might I be afraid to let this thing go? And who would I be without it? Right? And I feel like even though change is uncomfortable, even though composting parts of our identities can feel excruciating in moments. When we answer these questions, we're able to zoom out and have a different perspective where we're like, oh yeah, okay, this is what I came for. Yeah, I had been feeling a bit stagnated in my reality. I hadn't been feeling content or completely fulfilled. Something had to come and disrupt my reality in order for me to change. Another tool to move through the discomfort is somatic support. So let your body process what it needs to. You can do this through breath work, movement, rest, or even just simply laying on the floor with your hand on your heart and starting to just tune into your intuition and ask yourself what you need in that moment. Your body knows how to release what your mind tries to hold on to. So just offering yourself a safe space and that physical touch of your hand on your heart can go a long way. And another tool is spiritual reframe. So instead of thinking, I'm dying inside, remind yourself, I'm composting. The old parts of me are becoming fertilizer for my next growth. This is so powerful because I'm presently, as I shared with you, navigating a season of this where I'm very aware that parts of myself are composting. And I've caught a couple rogue thoughts, one of which was today, where I was like, parts of me just feel like they're dying. Like I feel like I'm dying inside. Something radical is shifting and changing. And that's what it feels like. And the whole I'm dying inside, it sounds very dramatic, but that's how it feels. I can really, really feel that there are multiple ways of being that are dissolving right now. But when I switch the language, I'm composting, right? And remind myself of something like, ooh, this is just becoming fertilizer for my next growth, or acknowledging that any death must be followed up with a rebirth, right? Any death that's happening inside of the self is creating space for something brand new, something much brighter. And that is the ray of light that keeps me moving through the discomfort when it feels like it's like, man, how much longer of this? I don't want to do this healing stuff anymore. It's not fun. It's not fun, no, but what's on the other side, I can promise you all, is so much fun, freedom, expansion, abundance, and it's always worth it. What you also see inside of yourself on the other side is how strong you are, how empowered you are, how capable and how resilient you are. And that is absolutely priceless. So if you're in a season where it feels like everything's crumbling, I want to remind you, nothing real can ever be lost. Love isn't lost, truth isn't lost, and who you really are isn't lost. What's dying is only the illusion of who you thought you had to be. Every death within you is making room for a deeper truth, more love, more alignment with your soul. This is not punishment, it's initiation. So just take a deep breath with me right here, right now. Feel that. You're still here and you are becoming, right? Perhaps you're in the chrysalis. Perhaps you're just breaking out of that shell, right? No matter where you are, you know that you are capable of rising through this. So if today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your reflections. You can share them with me on Instagram at Zoe Ariel or send me a DM. And if you're moving through one of these seasons and you know you want deeper support, as mentioned, my one-to-one coaching spaces are open right now, and you can apply through the link in the show notes. In that application form, you'll share your intentions, the kind of support you're craving, and your budget, and I'll personally get back to you with a plan that feels right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being brave enough to grow. And remember, every ending is a doorway to a more aligned beginning.